Welcome to another episode of The Story of Us by Skoob. I'm your host, Madison Reed, and today we're diving deep into one of the most controversial and fascinating phenomena of modern media, the paparazzi. From obsessive photographers lurking behind restaurant furniture to tragic car crashes that shocked the world, we're going to explore how a handful of determined photographers with telephoto lenses didn't just capture celebrities, they fundamentally changed how we consume fame itself. Picture this. You're walking down a New York street when suddenly a man in a fake mustache and wig jumps out from behind a hedge, camera blazing. Sound like a scene from a comedy? Well, for one former First Lady, this was Tuesday. Today, we're going to unravel the wild, sometimes disturbing, and ultimately transformative story of how paparazzi culture evolved from a few determined photographers into a multi-million-dollar industry that literally changed the rules of privacy, fame, and media forever. Our story begins in the most unlikely of places, not Hollywood, but the Bronx. Meet Ron Galella, a recently discharged Air Force veteran who would become the godfather of modern paparazzi photography. This wasn't some smooth Hollywood insider. This was a working-class guy from New York who saw an opportunity in the changing media landscape of the 1960s and 70s. Galella wasn't your typical portrait photographer. While other photographers arranged elegant studio sessions, Galella lived by a different philosophy: catch them when they least expect it. He carried 3 fully loaded Nikon cameras at all times. Think of him as the photographic equivalent of a gunslinger, always ready for action. His approach was revolutionary and, frankly, aggressive. He'd get into physical altercations with some of the biggest names in entertainment. Frank Sinatra despised him. Paul Newman couldn't stand him. And Marlon Brando? Well, Brando literally punched him in the jaw, a testament to just how invasive Galella's methods had become. But here's where our story takes a fascinating turn. Among all the celebrities Galella pursued, one woman captured not just his lens, but seemingly his heart: Jackie Kennedy Onassis. The former First Lady, already an icon of grace and tragedy, became the object of what can only be described as a professional obsession that bordered on the personal. Galella didn't just photograph Jackie. He studied her, learned her patterns, her habits, her vulnerabilities. His tactics read like something out of a spy thriller. He would leap over hedges to get the perfect shot. He'd sneak up on her on busy Manhattan streets. In restaurants, he'd literally hide behind furniture, waiting for that unguarded moment when her composure might slip. But perhaps most disturbing of all, Galella would go to extraordinary lengths to infiltrate Jackie's private world. He actually dated her maid, hoping to gain insider information about her schedule. Think about that for a moment. This photographer was so determined to capture images of this woman that he was willing to manipulate the people in her orbit. His disguise game was legendary. Wigs, fake mustaches, complete costume changes. Galella was like a method actor preparing for the role of anonymous photographer. But the most outrageous example has to be this. He once wore a scuba suit and swam off the shores of Scorpios, the Greek island, just to photograph Jackie. Imagine being so dedicated to your craft, or obsession, that you're willing to go underwater in full diving gear for a photo opportunity. Now, Jackie Kennedy Onassis wasn't just a passive victim in this bizarre dance. She was incredibly intelligent and strategic in her countermoves against Galella's relentless pursuit. See, Jackie understood something crucial about the photography business. The value of an image was directly tied to specific visual elements. She knew that photographs without clear eye contact sold for significantly less money. So what did she do? She made those oversized dark sunglasses her signature look. Every time she stepped out in public, those shades went on. It wasn't just a fashion statement. It was economic warfare against the paparazzi industry. Jackie also understood that certain clothing photographed poorly. Black clothing in particular was notoriously difficult to capture well with the camera technology of that era. So she frequently wore dark outfits, knowing it would diminish the technical quality of any stolen photographs. And then there was her signature move, covering her face with her hand. This simple gesture could render a photograph virtually worthless in the celebrity marketplace. But here's the psychological twist that makes this story so compelling. Jackie's very efforts to evade Galella only intensified his obsession. As Artforum magazine noted at the time, Galella pursued Jackie Kennedy Onassis with such fervent intensity that any photograph he took of any Kennedy family member somehow became, by default, a photograph about Jackie herself. For Galella, this wasn't just business. It was personal. He openly admitted to harboring feelings for Jackie that he described as bordering on love. This is where the story gets both touching and deeply problematic. Galella would actually dress up when he planned to photograph Jackie, putting on a coat and tie as a sign of respect. In his mind, he wasn't stalking her. He was courting her through his camera lens. He once described finding Jackie in Central Park among the autumn leaves as like spotting a diamond in the grass. His admiration wasn't just superficial either. He praised her for what he saw as a unique combination of beauty, wealth, glamour, sensitivity, and independence. Qualities that, in his view, kept the American public perpetually fascinated with her story. According to Kitty Kelly's biographical research, Galella amassed approximately 4,000 photographs of Jackie Kennedy Onassis over his career. But here's what's remarkable about this collection. Despite his intrusive methods, Galella never captured Jackie in compromising situations. You won't find photos of her smoking or drinking. He deliberately photographed her in bright lighting conditions to minimize any unflattering details. Every single image revealed not just Jackie's allure, but Galella's transparent and abiding affection for his subject. This wasn't paparazzi photography, as we might think of it today. This was something far more complex, a strange form of worship conducted through telephoto lenses. By 1972, this cat-and-mouse game between Galella and Jackie Kennedy Onassis had escalated to the point where legal intervention became necessary. What happened next would fundamentally change how American law dealt with celebrity privacy rights and paparazzi behavior. The case, officially known as Galella versus Onassis, became a landmark legal battle that established precedents we still live with today. The judge presiding over the case, ironically a Kennedy appointee, faced an unprecedented challenge. How do you balance press freedom with an individual's right to privacy? How do you determine when photography becomes harassment? The court developed what became known as the three-part balancing test, a legal framework that's still used today in similar cases. This test examined three crucial questions. First, is there legitimate public interest in these photographs? Second, what about the individual's right to privacy, their right to simply be left alone? And third, would ongoing harassment continue without court intervention? After weighing these factors, the court imposed specific, measurable restrictions on Galella's activities. He was forbidden from approaching within 100 yards of Jackie's residence. When photographing her in public, he had to maintain a distance of 50 yards from Jackie herself and 70 yards from her children. Think about that. The court literally created restraining distances measured in yards, turning public spaces into geometric puzzles of allowable photography zones. Galella, true to his determined nature, fought these restrictions for 3 years. During this entire period, he was prohibited from any photographic activities involving the Kennedy family. Eventually, the court relaxed the restrictions somewhat. He could now approach within 25 feet of Jackie and 30 feet of the children, and the constraints around her apartment were lifted. But here's where Galella's story takes a dramatic turn toward self-destruction. Despite the legal boundaries, despite years of court battles, despite clear judicial orders, he simply couldn't help himself. The obsession was stronger than his respect for the law. In 1982, Galella was caught red-handed, trailing Jackie once again as she exited the Winter Garden Theater in Manhattan. During the subsequent trial, his defense was almost absurdly honest. He argued that maintaining the court-mandated 25-foot distance made it impossible to capture quality photographs. In other words, he was arguing that following the law interfered with his ability to do his job effectively. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Galella faced a potential $120,000 fine and 7 years in prison. Ultimately, he chose to settle, paying a $10,000 fine and agreeing to completely cease photographing Jackie and her daughter Caroline. It was the end of one of the most intense photographer-subject relationships in media history. While Galella was establishing the template for American paparazzi culture, something equally transformative was happening across the Atlantic. The British royal family, long protected by tradition and respectful media coverage, was about to become the next frontier in intrusive celebrity photography. The change began with a media mogul you've definitely heard of, Rupert Murdoch. In the late 1960s, Murdoch acquired two major British publications, The Sun and News of the World. Under his direction, these papers began shifting towards stories that delved into the private lives and romantic entanglements of public figures. Initially, this attention focused on entertainment and sports celebrities, but by the late 1970s, something unprecedented happened. The tabloids turned their attention to Britain's younger royals. Prince Charles and Prince Andrew became particular favorites. Charles attracted media attention for his frequent ski trips to Klosters, Switzerland, often accompanied by rumored romantic interests. But Prince Andrew found himself at the center of an intense paparazzi storm when he was pursued to Mustique, a Caribbean island, where he was vacationing with model Koo Stark, who was famously photographed topless. The shift didn't happen overnight, though. Ray Belisario, a pioneering paparazzo, documented his early attempts to photograph the British royals in his 1972 book, To Tread on Royal Toes. Belisario's methods were as creative as they were audacious. He once rented a room on the 19th floor of London's Park Lane Hilton and used zoom lenses to photograph the Queen and the Duke of Windsor, strolling through Buckingham Palace gardens. At that time, the royal family was generally considered beyond the reach of invasive paparazzi tactics. Traditional Fleet Street newspapers wouldn't publish Belisario's exclusive images, but international media outlets were hungry for this unprecedented access to royal privacy. Everything changed with the marriage of Prince Charles to Diana Spencer. Diana's relationship with the press became the stuff of legend, particularly after her tragic death in August 1997. During her life, Diana was portrayed as having a complicated relationship with photographers, sometimes appearing to cooperate with them, other times clearly frustrated by their constant presence. This era saw unprecedented global interest in the British royal family. American photographers, including Jennifer Mitchell, traveled specifically to the UK, hoping to capture images of the royals, especially Princess Diana. The international fixation on the British monarchy during this period represented a fundamental shift in how royalty was covered by media worldwide. The fascination with Princess Diana represented something unique in celebrity culture. According to media scholars, Diana played a crucial role in ushering in what some describe as the golden age of tabloid journalism in both the UK and the US. Her appeal to tabloid journalism wasn't accidental. It was the result of carefully crafted mythology. British tabloids presented Diana as a fascinating contrast to contemporary political figures like Margaret Thatcher. While Thatcher was depicted with the harsh efficiency of the Iron Lady, Diana was presented as a blend of distant figure of royal privilege and timeless, classless ideal. This duality made her endlessly fascinating to the public. Interestingly, Diana's reserved public appearances only added to her mystique. During the first 3 years of her marriage to Prince Charles, she reportedly spoke fewer than 500 words for public consumption. This silence made every photograph, every glimpse, every stolen moment exponentially more valuable. But the layers of surveillance surrounding Diana were complex and multi-layered. The paparazzi attention was just one element of constant observation that enveloped her life. The fervor surrounding Diana, particularly leading up to her death, created a media environment unlike anything previously seen. Then came August 31st, 1997, a date that changed everything. Princess Diana and her companion Dodi Al Fayed left the Hotel Ritz in Paris, only to be aggressively pursued by paparazzi photographers. This pursuit led to a catastrophic accident in Paris's Pont de l'Alma tunnel, instantly killing Dodi Al-Fayed and the driver, Henri Paul. Diana survived the initial crash, but died from her injuries at the hospital. The sole survivor was Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones. The public reaction was immediate and intense. Many held the paparazzi directly responsible for the tragedy, citing visual evidence of photographers dangerously pursuing Diana's vehicle through Paris streets. Darren Lyons, owner of the UK-based Big Pictures agency, provides a fascinating insider's perspective on these events in his book Mr. Paparazzi. Lyons describes how he learned of the accident from a photographer associated with a French partner agency. This photographer had been following Diana and Dodi, but lost them after they ran a red light. By chance, he came upon the accident scene while heading home. Here's where the story becomes particularly complex. While attempting to offer first aid to Diana and waiting for emergency responders, this photographer simultaneously documented the scene. It was instinct, the automatic response of someone whose profession was to capture significant moments, regardless of context. Lyons initially began marketing these images, believing early reports that Diana had sustained only minor injuries. However, once Diana's death was confirmed, he immediately withdrew the images from circulation. Despite this decision, controversial images of Diana in critical condition were eventually published in 2006 by various European outlets, including the Italian publication Ci magazine, provoking substantial international backlash. Diana's death marked a turning point in public perception of paparazzi culture, but it certainly didn't end the industry. Instead, technological and cultural changes in the early 2000s created an environment where paparazzi culture exploded beyond anything previously imaginable. Beginning around 2004, traditional print magazines found themselves facing formidable competition from a new wave of digital platforms characterized by their snarky, sensationalist approach to celebrity gossip. Websites like PerezHilton.com, TMZ.com, Gawker.com, X17Online.com, and Pink is the New Blog emerged as frontrunners in this digital space. These platforms had significant advantages over traditional media. They could publish stories at any hour, creating a publication rhythm so rapid that weekly print magazines seemed practically ancient by comparison. The demand for content was relentless. These sites needed stories and images constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This demand fundamentally changed the celebrity ecosystem. The heightened need for content led not only to increased sales, but to the emergence of a continuously expanding pool of celebrity figures. We shifted from an era where stars were elevated to untouchable heights, protected by the Hollywood studio system, to a new age characterized by accessibility and constant scrutiny. A-list actors who desired privacy often relocated away from Hollywood or avoided known paparazzi hotspots. But this only created more intrigue around their rare public appearances. The technological advances were game-changing. Lightweight telephoto lenses and high-powered digital cameras allowed photographers to capture crisp images from considerable distances much more quickly than ever before. Digital technology meant no film processing delays. Images could be transmitted and published within hours or even minutes of being captured. The economics were staggering. The example that perfectly illustrates this new reality is 2007, during Britney Spears' highly publicized personal struggles. At any given moment, an estimated 30 to 45 paparazzi photographers shadowed the pop star. The X17 agency alone reported earning $2.5 million from Britney-related photographs, nearly a third of the agency's total revenue. This wasn't just photography anymore. This was a feeding frenzy with massive financial stakes. Celebrity-focused gossip magazines were spending record-breaking amounts to secure exclusive and revealing images. The cycle was self-perpetuating. Public fascination drove sales, which justified higher payments to photographers, which attracted more photographers to the field, which generated more content, which fed public fascination. This digital revolution created an entirely new type of publication, what became known as CELEBAZINES. These weren't the fan magazines of previous decades that portrayed celebrities as flawless beings worthy of worship. Instead, CELEBAZINES flipped the script entirely, oscillating between veneration and ridicule, sometimes within the same issue. The celebazine approach was psychologically sophisticated in its manipulation. Celebrities would be momentarily elevated, praised for their fashion choices or relationship decisions, only to be subjected to harsh criticism pages later. Female celebrities, in particular, experienced severe scrutiny concerning their personal lives, relationships, life choices, and especially their bodies. This created a narrative framework where celebrity perfection was constantly questioned. The tone ranged from critical analysis to gleeful celebration of celebrity failures. It was entertainment built on schadenfreude, taking pleasure in others' misfortunes. But the genius of celebazines lay in their fundamental message. Celebrities are just like us, only with more money. These publications featured signature photo spreads showing stars engaged in mundane activities, grocery shopping, eating sandwiches, walking their dogs. The message was clear. If these people could have it all, so could regular readers. Celebazines became lifestyle instruction manuals disguised as entertainment. They provided advice on shopping, dieting, dating, and childbearing, all filtered through celebrity examples. This reinforced what scholars call neoliberal philosophy, the idea that individual consumer choices could significantly contribute to personal success. The paparazzi photographs feeding these publications revealed celebrities' humanity and vulnerabilities on a weekly basis. But rather than creating empathy, this exposure often generated a strange form of consumer envy, mixed with judgment. Readers could simultaneously admire and criticize, worship and mock, all within the same magazine experience. As we look back on this evolution from Ron Galella's obsessive pursuit of Jackie Kennedy to the multi-million-dollar digital paparazzi industry of today, what becomes clear is that we're not just talking about photography. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the relationship between public figures and society. The paparazzi didn't just capture celebrities, they changed what celebrity itself means. The era when stars were distant, mysterious figures protected by studio systems, and respectful press coverage is long gone. Instead, we live in an age of enforced accessibility, where public figures are expected to be constantly available for public consumption. The legal framework established by the Galella versus Onassis case continues to influence privacy law today, but it's been overwhelmed by technological and cultural changes that the 1970s legal system couldn't anticipate. Social media has made everyone a potential paparazzi photographer, armed with high-quality cameras in their pockets and instant global distribution networks. The economic model pioneered by early paparazzi agencies has evolved into a massive industry encompassing not just photography, but video content, social media management, and brand partnership facilitation. What began as a few determined photographers hiding in bushes has become a sophisticated media ecosystem generating hundreds of millions of dollars annually. But perhaps most significantly, paparazzi culture has changed how we, as a society, consume and relate to public figures. The expectation of constant access to celebrities' private moments has created a form of intimacy that's entirely one-sided and artificial. We know what our favorite stars eat for breakfast, but they don't know we exist. The tragedy of Princess Diana serves as a permanent reminder of the potential consequences when media pursuit becomes literally life-threatening. Yet the industry has continued to evolve and expand, suggesting that our appetite for celebrity content outweighs our concerns about the methods used to obtain it. From fake mustaches to multi-million-dollar photo deals, the rise of the paparazzi didn't just change celebrity culture, it rewired our obsession with fame. What began with one photographer's fixation on a former First Lady sparked an entire industry where no private moment is off limits. But here's the twist. In a world of social media and 24/7 access, are we the watchers or part of the machine? Want to know how a single snapshot changed royal history, or how the paparazzi's tactics sparked legal battles that still shape privacy law today? Download the Skoob app now to hear the full story and uncover the untold layers of fame, obsession, and the power of the lens. This has been The Story of Us, with yours truly, Madison Reed. Subscribe for more hidden forces shaping the world around us.